Hey guys, my name is Matsumo, and today I wanted to do something a little bit different in Battlefield 1, and so I decided to turn off my UI entirely. This is the most cinematic way to play the game, and honestly, really the only hardcore experience that we can have right now until they add in hardcore. You'll notice that there isn't any indications of what's going on, at least with regard to the UI. I can't tell who's an enemy or a teammate based off of the name above their head. There isn't any indication of what objectives have been taken. I can't even see my health bar. All I can use is the audio and visual cues that are happening around me, and once you get the hang of it, it is one of the coolest ways that you can play this game. I think one of the more impressive things that DICE has accomplished with Battlefield 1 is that you do not need to rely on your UI as much as you think that you would need to. When I first started, I thought this was going to be much more challenging, mainly because I thought it was going to be almost impossible to identify who was an enemy or a teammate. After playing for just about 2 minutes though, I quickly realized, no, DICE has actually made the uniforms very uniform. Who would have thought? And each side has a very unique look and color palette to it, so that even at a glance, you know that that is an enemy or a teammate, and you don't need to have that nameplate above their head to actually know that you need to shoot down range and take them out. And while of course there were some limitations, if an enemy was inside of a building or there was a lot of smog and smoke flying around everywhere, it could be kind of challenging to know who I'd be shooting at. But even at long range on something like Monte Grappa, I had no problem knowing that that was an enemy because of the silhouette and just the color palette that the enemy has on their uniform. DICE did an amazing job with this. Not only that, but the audio is incredible. I had so many moments where I was able to identify where an enemy was located based off of the audio, mainly footsteps, but there was also times where I could just listen to the voices around me, figure out that, oh, that's a certain faction based off of their accent and the way that they sound, and then move around and flank them and catch them by surprise. I think the main takeaway that I had from this experience is that you start to notice a lot of the more subtle things that DICE clearly put a lot of thought into. You know that someone just spent hours upon hours perfecting these aspects of the game, and when you have a UI on, it sort of glosses over them, but when you just sit down and immerse yourself in the graphics and the different animations, everything starts to become way more apparent. I don't know why this is, but the graphics just look better when you turn off your UI. I've done this for a lot of Battlefield games, and every single time I'm always blown away by how good they look, and of course Battlefield 1 is no exception to this, and for some reason turning off the UI just makes you appreciate how beautiful this game looks. You start to notice all the subtle animations, the different clothing effects of how it blows in the wind. You realize that there's a key sound that lets you know when you kill an enemy. You don't need to have the kill feed pop on up to let you know that you took him out. There's actually a sound there. You can know that an enemy is on an objective with you and that it's contested. All of these things you might know subconsciously when you're playing the game, and it gives you more of that feedback so that you can have a better experience, but once you turn everything off, it becomes way more apparent and honestly just makes for an amazing immersive experience. Now, the one thing that this got me thinking about though is how will DICE implement a true hardcore mode into Battlefield? If you're not aware, this is something that DICE is currently working on, and a developer recently tweeted out that the way that they're thinking of adding it on in is that everyone will have the same health that they have right now, so 100 HP, but the weapons will do double damage. This has me a little worried because this sounds like a blanket way of trying to force in a game mode, and at the end of the day, it's not going to be all that enjoyable. If you thought that sniping was amazing right now in the normal mode, imagine what it's gonna be like when everyone's able to one-shot you, no matter the distance, no matter the range, with these amazing bolt-action rifles. Now, I do realize that this always has been kind of an issue with this game mode. If you look back at Battlefield 4, there were a lot of hardcore servers that wouldn't even allow you to use bolt-action rifles because they just didn't want to promote that gameplay or even designated marksman rifles. The thing is, though, is that back in Battlefield 4, you had assault rifles that could outcompete and take out snipers at long range. If you were good with an automatic assault rifle, you had no problem counter-sniping people. We don't really have that in Battlefield 1. If you're running around as an assault player, even if you have double damage, you're still not going to be able to counter-snipe that enemy scout way out in the distance. Even something like the LMGs are going to struggle, and so it makes me curious to see how DICE is going to handle things, because my fear is that everyone's just going to run around as the scout class using bolt-action rifles, because why wouldn't you? Now, I know some people will say, oh, this is perfect. This is going to be the true World War I experience. People during World War I, all they were using was bolt-action rifles, and hallelujah, we're finally going to get that. And while I get that mentality, at the end of the day, this is a class-based shooter. We need to have all 4 classes represented, and I think most people at the end of the day would get annoyed just by having constant sniper gameplay and only fighting against enemy snipers. Now, I know that I might be overreacting here, but my hope is that the reason why this wasn't introduced at the release of the title is that they are taking the necessary steps to balance out all of the classes. My hope is that they're going individually for all of the guns and balancing it for hardcore. If you just have a blanket damage multiplier, I don't think that's going to be enough. We run into all the same problems that we had in past Battlefield games. We run into a lot of the same issues, and so I'm really crossing my fingers that the reason why it is taking longer is that they want to ensure that all of the classes feel represented, all of the classes feel unique and have their place in this hardcore playstyle. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If this looks like fun and you'd like to try it out yourself, I highly recommend that you do. You can go into the gameplay options, and at the very top, there is the ability to just flat out turn off all your UI. You can still tab to look at your score. There is still a spawn screen. You don't have to mess with the commands like you did in past Battlefield games. And so if this looks enjoyable and you want a true cinematic experience, I highly recommend that you give this a whirl. Let me know what you think about the hardcore mode. Do you like the idea of everyone running around with bolt-action rifles? Because I'll be honest, that would be the more realistic and authentic World War I experience. Or would you rather them go another route and really try to balance out all of the classes? Give me your thoughts down below. But yeah, guys, until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.